Hey there, and welcome. Before we jump into today's story, I have a quick question for you. Where in the world are you tuning in from? Drop your city in the comments below. I'd love to see how far this reaches. Now, here's something to think about. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you uncovered the truth about a cheating wife? Maybe it was a friend's experience, a crazy story you heard, or something that happened to you personally. If you've got a story, don't hold back. Share it in the comments. I'm curious to know how people handle these situations. All right, let's not waste any more time. Sit back, get comfortable, and let's get into this story. I never used to be the kind of person who believed in fate. Life, to me, was always a sequence of logical steps, choices leading to consequences, actions shaping our futures. But looking back now, I wonder if some things had been set in motion long before I ever had a say in them. There were signs, subtle warnings I had brushed aside, too wrapped up in the comfort of routine to notice. Maybe if I had paid closer attention, I could have seen what was coming. Maybe I could have stopped it. Or maybe, no matter what I did, I was always meant to end up here. It started, perhaps, with an old letter I found while cleaning out my father's study a few months ago. It was buried beneath a stack of financial statements, yellowed with time, addressed to him in handwriting I didn't recognize. The envelope was still sealed, and for a moment, I hesitated. My father was never one for keeping sentimental keepsakes. Anything he kept had a reason. But something about this letter unsettled me. I placed it back where I had found it, unwilling to disturb whatever past it carried. I should have opened it. I should have read the words that someone, long ago, had tried to tell him, because maybe then I wouldn't have been so blindsided by what came next. As I sat at my desk, I checked the time, just a few minutes before 4 p.m. In an hour, I'd be heading home, ready to embrace the weekend. I always looked forward to these breaks, but this one was particularly important. Tomorrow marked 20 years since Katie and I exchanged vows, and I had planned a surprise getaway at a secluded lake house to celebrate our anniversary. My gaze fell on an old photo of Katie resting on my desk. She had always been the center of my world. My name is Thomas West, though most people just call me Tom. Katie and I had been together since high school, tying the knot shortly after graduation. She strongly believed in waiting until marriage for closeness, convinced it would make our honeymoon all the more special. And she was right. My parents fully supported our union. As a wedding gift, they gave me $100,000 along with the deed to a townhouse they had previously rented out. Just to help you start off, my father had said, explaining that the money was part of a $5 million trust fund set up for me after my birth mother passed away. She had died when I was just a baby, but my father never spoke about her. A year later, he remarried, and the woman I came to know as my mother stepped into our lives. At one point, I had considered joining the military, but my childhood diabetes disqualified me. That didn't stop me from staying active. I played soccer and trained in martial arts. Katie and I attended college together. She pursued a degree in education, while I aimed to follow my father into the business world. However, our plans shifted 6 months into our marriage when Katie became pregnant. Her pregnancy was difficult, and after our son, Jim, was born, doctors advised her to undergo a procedure to prevent future pregnancies. She took time off from school to raise him, later earning her teaching certificate, while I completed my studies and landed a job as an accountant at Ryder Industries. I remember breaking the news to my father about my job. "Ryder Industries, huh?" he asked, his tone unreadable. "Yeah," I said. "Good pay, solid benefits." "All right," he responded, nodding. "I'm proud of you." But there was something in his voice, something that made me hesitate. "I hope it works out for you," he added, leaving the conversation at that. For the next 16 years, life settled into a routine: work, family, and the occasional vacation. My job didn't require much travel, which meant we could always plan a summer getaway. Eventually, I had to give up martial arts due to time constraints. Every so often, my father encouraged me to explore new career opportunities, but I was content where I was. Overall, life was good. Like any couple, Katie and I had our share of ups and downs, but we were happy together. Lately, however, something felt off. She had grown distant, her moods shifting unpredictably. She would snap at me over minor things, then later apologize as if nothing had happened. When I asked her about it, she brushed me off. Something wasn't right. At the same time, I found out I was being considered for a vice president position at work. My main competitor was Alex Marlowe, an experienced candidate, but I believed I was better suited for the role. I hadn't told anyone about it yet, not even Katie, preferring to wait until I had official confirmation. I doubted the promotion had anything to do with her recent behavior. Then it hit me. Jim had just graduated and was leaving for West Point. Maybe the thought of an empty house was weighing on her. That was exactly why I planned our anniversary trip, to lift her spirits and remind her of the bond we shared. At 4:15, the ringing of my phone pulled me from my thoughts. "Mr. West," my secretary's voice came through. "Mr. Henderson just called. He needs to see you immediately." "Thanks, Rhonda," I replied. Jacob Henderson III, better known as Jake, was the CEO of Ryder Industries. When he called, you didn't keep him waiting. Assuming it had something to do with the promotion, I adjusted my tie, grabbed my phone, and set the audio recorder to run for an hour, just in case. When the elevator doors opened on the 15th floor where the top executives had their offices, I stepped out and made my way to Henderson's suite. His assistant, Brenda Harris, greeted me with a knowing smirk. "Mr. Henderson is expecting you, Mr. West," she said. Something about her smile unsettled me. "Come in," Henderson's voice called from inside. I stepped into his expansive office and took the seat he gestured toward near a coffee table. "Get Mr. West a drink, Harvey," he instructed. I glanced at the tall man in a sharp suit, Harvey Strauss, one of Henderson's personal security guards. He poured a measure of bourbon into a glass and handed it to me. I rarely drank, but he knew I preferred it straight, just like my father always had. I accepted the glass with a nod, noticing that Harvey, as always, remained expressionless. Now that I thought about it, I had never seen the man smile. Henderson shrugged off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and sank into the sofa across from me. Despite being in his 50s, he was built like a man who still took his fitness seriously. Broad chest, strong frame. He took a sip of his drink before setting it down and studying me with a sharp gaze. "Go on," he said with a smirk. "A drink won't hurt you. Relax a little." I took a cautious sip before placing the glass back on the coaster. "Thanks. What can I do for you, Mr. Henderson?" His smile widened. "That's what I like about you, Tom. Always professional, always in control. I was just telling Brenda the other day, I've never seen you rattled. So, how's life at home? Your wife doing well?" I nodded. "Yeah, things are good. Our son just left for West Point, so we're adjusting. I actually planned a weekend getaway for our 20th anniversary." 20 years? He raised an eyebrow. "That's impressive. Congratulations." He leaned forward slightly. "But that's not why I called you in. It's about your promotion. As you know, it's down to you and Marlo. The board needs some final assurances before making their decision." "I see," I said evenly. "What kind of assurances?" "They want to evaluate your flexibility, your ability to handle pressure, how far you're willing to go for the company." He fixed me with an unreadable expression. "You understand that an executive role isn't just a 9-to-5 job anymore." "I expected that," I replied. "They've reviewed my performance records, haven't they?" "Of course," he said. "But they need more than just numbers. They want to see how you react under real pressure." I frowned slightly. "I'm not sure I follow." Henderson took another sip of his drink before setting the glass down. "Let me put it another way. How strong is your marriage?" "Very solid," I answered, slightly thrown by the shift in conversation. "Why?" "Good," he said smoothly. "Because you're going to need to cancel your plans this weekend. If your marriage is as strong as you say, your wife will understand." Harvey gave a slight nod before silently moving toward another door, pushing it open without a word. A moment later, Lenny Jameson, Henderson's second in command when it came to security, stepped inside, guiding Katie alongside him. She looked stunning, yet completely out of place. Her dress was far too provocative for any normal occasion, clinging to her body in a way that made me uncomfortable. The deep neckline exposed more than I'd ever seen her willingly reveal in public. Something was wrong. Her movements were sluggish, her eyes glassy, and when she met my gaze, there was no recognition in them. "Katie?" I shot to my feet. "What the hell is going on? Why are you dressed like that?" She didn't respond. I turned sharply toward Henderson, my fists tightening. "What the hell did you do to her? She looks sedated." Henderson let out a low chuckle. "Come on, Tom, you're a smart man. Figure it out. And yes, I gave her something. Helps keep things manageable." He smirked, watching my reaction. "She's not going anywhere anytime soon." A surge of fury coursed through me. "You—" I took a step forward, but before I could do anything, my body betrayed me. My limbs felt impossibly heavy, my vision blurred at the edges, and my stomach twisted with a sickening realization. The drink. Harvey had sedated me. Henderson leaned back in his chair, amused by my struggle. "Ah, there it is." the realization settling in. Consider this a little test. Your ability to handle pressure, your loyalty to the company. The board wants to see how you perform when things get personal. I fought to stay upright, but my body refused to cooperate. My speech slurred as I forced the words out. You're going to regret this. Henderson's smirk never wavered. Is that any way to talk to your own brother? I froze. What? He took his time, savoring my reaction. No one ever told you? How my mother had an affair with your father while she was still married? That's right, Tom. You and I, same blood. He laughed at the disbelief on my face. Guess Daddy Dearest left out that little detail, huh? My head spun. That's not possible. Oh, but it is. Henderson's voice was calm, confident. And this is personal. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Why? I demanded, my voice unsteady. He shrugged like it was nothing. For one, I run this company. I do whatever I damn well please. But more importantly, your father stole from my family. Ever wonder where your precious trust fund came from? That money was rightfully mine. Now I'm taking back what should have always been mine, piece by piece. You're insane, I spat. He simply grinned. Call it what you want, but it's already happening. Here's the deal. You're not divorcing your wife. She's going to need financial support for her new lifestyle. His smirk darkened. Because she belongs to me now. I'm taking her to New York to introduce her to some important people. They're eager to meet her. Rage burned through my veins. You won't get away with this. Henderson's laughter echoed in the room. Oh, Tom, I already have. He gave Lenny a quick nod, and before I could react, Lenny stepped forward. His expression was almost apologetic. Nothing personal, Mr. West, just following orders. Then his fist slammed into my face. Another blow landed and everything faded to black. When I regained consciousness, I was in a hospital bed. The rhythmic beeping of machines filled the air. My head pounded, my mouth was dry, and an IV was taped to my arm. The fluorescent lights overhead were painfully bright against the stark white walls. Turning my head slightly, I saw my father sitting beside the bed. He looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days. As soon as he noticed I was awake, he immediately called for a nurse. A young woman entered, checked my vitals, and handed me a small piece of ice to suck on. I managed to whisper, "How long?" "You've been unconscious for 4 days," my father said, his voice tight with worry. "The hospital called me late Friday night. They said someone dropped you off at the ER, unresponsive. You never came home. What happened?" Before I could answer, a doctor walked in. "Good afternoon, Mr. West. I'm Dr. Pierce." He glanced at my chart. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got run over," I muttered. "Not surprising," he said. "You suffered a concussion and some bruised ribs, but no fractures. We'll do a few more scans and keep you overnight for observation. If all looks good, you should be able to go home tomorrow." I gave a weak nod. Dr. Pierce hesitated. "Given the extent of your injuries, I contacted the police. They'll be here shortly to take your statement. Do you feel up to talking to them?" My throat was raw, but I forced myself to say, "Yeah, I need to." The doctor left, and a few minutes later, a man in a dark suit entered, flashing his badge. "Mr. West, I'm Detective Ryan Blackstone. I need you to tell me everything you remember." I reached for the cup of water beside me, took a sip, and nodded. "Yeah, I can do that." I recounted every detail. The meeting with Henderson, the threats, the sedated drink, the knocking. Then something clicked in my memory. My phone. "Did they find my phone?" I asked urgently. My father reached into the bedside drawer. "Your mother thought you'd need your charger, so she brought it." With trembling hands, I powered the device on. Dozens of unread messages flooded my screen, but I ignored them, scrolling straight to my recordings. There it was, the audio file from Henderson's office. I hit play. Silence filled the room as Henderson's voice came through, detailing his threats, his plans. Then, "Okay, get him out of here," Henderson's voice said. "Take him out the back. Dump him at the hospital. If anyone asks, tell them that's how you found him." A pause. "Understood, boss," Lenny's voice replied. There was the sound of movement, followed by muffled voices as they dragged me toward a car. "Careful," Harvey muttered. "Don't want blood on the seats." "I'm trying, but he's a heavy creep," Lenny grumbled. "Aren't they all?" Harvey chuckled. A car door slammed shut, and the recording cut off. Detective Blackstone exhaled sharply. "Hospital security cameras confirm it. They pulled up, dumped you in the parking lot, and drove off. 2 EMTs found you and rushed you inside." He glanced at me. We ran the license plate. The car is registered to Ryder Industries. My father sighed heavily. I called your HR department Monday to let them know you were hospitalized. Turns out Henderson already informed them you'd be on sick leave for a week. I pushed myself up slightly, ignoring the sharp pain in my ribs. Any word from Katie? My father's expression darkened. Nothing. I've been calling the house, her cell, leaving messages, no response. I clenched my jaw. She's probably still in New York, I muttered. God knows what he's doing to her. Blackstone straightened. I'll put out a missing persons report. Do you have a recent photo? I pulled up a recent photo of Katie on my phone. Send it to me, Detective Blackstone instructed. And that audio file. I'll coordinate with the NYPD and issue warrants for Henderson and his men. Are you pressing charges? Without a doubt, Blackstone nodded. Good. You focus on recovering. We'll take care of the rest. He handed me a business card. Call me if you remember anything else. As he left, I turned to my father. Is what Henderson said true? Dad let out a weary sigh, rubbing his temples. Yes and no. His father forced himself on your biological mother. I saw it happen. But she was already pregnant at the time. She just didn't know it yet. I felt a chill run through me. What happened after that? I filed for divorce, he said flatly. She swore it was a mistake, claimed she still loved me, but I wasn't interested. I moved into the guest house and cut all ties with her. I also sued Henderson and Company for alienation of affection. The case was put on hold until you were born. Did you ever do a DNA test? Dad exhaled slowly. You were born in '82. DNA testing wasn't like it is today. We did blood tests, but they were inconclusive. Henderson's father and I had the same blood type. Your mother spiraled after that. Booze, pills. She overdosed 6 months after you were born. Damn, I muttered. The lawsuit went forward. We settled out of court, and that money became your trust fund. But I was legally bound to never discuss the case, which is why I never told you. He ran a tired hand over his face. A year later, I met Patricia. From the moment she saw you, she wanted to adopt you. She couldn't have kids, but to her, you were always her son. I swallowed hard. But how did you know for sure that I was yours? Dad met my gaze. Remember that motorcycle accident when you were 16? I grimaced at the memory. Yeah, Jimmy reared and hit a patch of slick road and I went down with him. We were wearing helmets, but I still got banged up pretty bad. He nodded. While you were in the hospital, I ordered a DNA test. I needed to be certain. The results came back, a 99% match. You were mine. A lump formed in my throat. You've always been my dad. Nothing changes that. A small, relieved smile crossed his face. I shifted slightly. What happened to Henderson's father? He had a stroke while you were in college, Dad said. Died not long after. His son took over the company. His expression darkened. I had hoped he'd be different. I was wrong. That's why you weren't happy when I took the job at Ryder Industries, wasn't it? He nodded. I wanted to warn you, but legally, I couldn't. I just prayed I wouldn't regret it. You couldn't have known, Dad, I assured him. But what I don't understand is Katie. How could she believe Henderson after everything we've been through? Dad sighed. She looked sedated, son. She may not have had a choice. Maybe, I said, though doubt gnawed at me. But something's off. Why was she even there and dressed like that? A knock at the door interrupted us. Yeah, I called. The door opened and Brenda walked in, carrying a vase of fresh flowers and a card. The office pitched in and got this for you, she said, placing them on the nightstand. Everyone signed the card. That's thoughtful, I said, genuinely surprised. Tell them I appreciate it. Brenda hesitated, shifting her weight. She finally spoke, her voice quiet. I'm really sorry about all of this. I studied her. Did you know what Henderson was planning? Her hesitation was answer enough. I knew he had something in mind for Katie, but I didn't think it would go this far, she admitted, guilt flickering in her eyes. I sat up straighter. Tell me everything. Brenda took a deep breath. That morning, he gave me a company credit card and told me to pick up Katie. He said she was expecting me. He also told me to find the most revealing, attention-grabbing dress possible. Then he had me take her to a salon for a full makeover, including a Brazilian wax. A knot tightened in my stomach. You knew what that meant. She gave a small, guilty nod. I had my suspicions. It's not the first time he's done this. My father, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. So he uses you to prepare women for him. Brenda dropped her gaze. I pressed on. Did you know he sedated her? Her lips parted slightly before she looked away. He pills all of them. He likes being in control. Dad's expression hardened. Has he ever done it to you? Brenda swallowed hard. Once, a small dose, just enough to make sure I wouldn't argue. My fists clenched at my sides. Do you have any idea how much he gave Katie? Her eyes flickered with realization. If he tripled the usual amount, she trailed off, her face paling. Oh my God. She must have been out of it for hours. She probably didn't even know you were there. I exhaled sharply. When I walked into his office, you knew what was coming, didn't you? Brenda gave a small nod. I knew he had plans for you, but I didn't think he'd hurt you. Do you know where they are now? Last I heard, still in New York, she replied. Dad stepped in. Would you be willing to speak to the police? Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, I'll do whatever I can to help. One more thing, I said, my voice measured. She hesitated. What? Did Katie know what was going to happen? Brenda shifted uncomfortably. I think she had an idea. Henderson had been spending a lot of time with her. Long lunches, closed-door meetings. He invited her to dinner more than once. A chill ran down my spine. Were they involved? Brenda looked away. I don't know for certain, but it's very possible. Dad's jaw tightened. You've helped him do this before, haven't you? Brenda nodded reluctantly. More than once. So, you condoned it? Dad challenged. She shook her head quickly. I had no choice. I'm a single mom with a special needs son. Henderson pays me well, for my work and my silence. Dad exhaled sharply. And that silence put my son in the hospital. Brenda flinched. I swear, I never thought he'd go this far. If I had, I would have warned him. My father studied her for a long moment before nodding. Brenda, the police will contact you. Cooperate fully. Understood? She nodded quickly. I will. Good, I said, my voice softer now. And thanks for the flowers and card. Let the office know I appreciate it. Brenda wiped at her eyes. I will. And I'm sorry. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the room. I watched the door close behind Brenda, then turned to my father. That explains a lot. Katie's been acting off for weeks. I assumed it was just because Jim left for West Point. Dad gave a slow nod. We'll figure out what's really going on. Before I could respond, a knock at the door interrupted us. A hospital orderly entered, pushing a tray of food toward my bed. Dad stood up, stretching. Looks like dinner's here. I should head home before your mother thinks I've gone missing. I managed a weak chuckle. Tell her I love her. I will. And for the record, I love you too, son. We bumped fists before he walked out. Turning my attention to the tray, I was surprised by how good the food smelled. After days of barely eating, hunger gnawed at me. I didn't waste time digging into the meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Even the broccoli wasn't bad. By the time I scraped the last bit of pudding from the cup, I finally felt full. Sipping my coffee, I unlocked my phone. 4 unread messages. Each one had a video attached. The first message had been sent Friday night. Enjoy. Bet you wish you were here. The number was unfamiliar. My gut told me not to, but I tapped on the first video. Instantly, I regretted it. The screen showed Katie standing before a group of grinning men, still wearing that dress, the one I last saw her in. I recognized the faces, members of the board. My stomach turned. One of them grabbed the thin straps of her dress and yanked it down. The fabric pooled at her feet. Her eyes were empty, pupils unnaturally large. The pills still had her in their grip. Dark circles framed her bloodshot eyes. She looked exhausted, hollow. Then Henderson's voice cut through the haze. I hope you like the show, horned husband, he sneered. This is your wife's new reality, so you might as well get used to it. He turned toward Katie, a wicked grin spreading across his face. Tell him who I am, sweetheart. Katie's voice was eerily lifeless. Jake Henderson is my master. Good girl, he praised, eyes gleaming. Now tell him what your job is. The words came out robotic, as if rehearsed. I am my master's personal companion. I obey him in all things. Perfect, Henderson chuckled. Now let him know what that means for him. Katie's dull eyes shifted toward the camera, her finger pointing directly at me. You'll never touch me again. Henderson smirked and leaned in. And one more thing, he said, amusement dripping from his voice. Don't do anything stupid. Next time I send Harvey and Lenny, you might not wake up. See you around. The screen went black. My grip tightened around my phone until my knuckles turned white. A storm of rage, betrayal, and disgust churned inside me. I glanced down at my wedding ring, once a symbol of everything I thought I had. Now it meant nothing. I tore it off and tossed it onto the nightstand. Maybe I'd sell it. One thing was certain. I was divorcing Katie. I didn't give a damn what Henderson wanted, and I was going to make him pay. But how? The laws my father once used to sue for alienation of affection didn't exist anymore. And as satisfying as it would be to eliminate Henderson, he wasn't worth a life sentence. I grabbed my phone and dialed Ryan. I told him everything, the threats, the videos. "Send them over," he said immediately. "I'll be in touch soon." After forwarding the files, I shut off my phone. I thought about calling Jim, but had no idea where to start. Instead, I turned on the TV, hoping to shut out my thoughts. Sleep came eventually, but it was restless, haunted by memories of a life that no longer existed. I woke to nurses checking my vitals. After a trip to radiology for more x-rays, I returned to my room just as an orderly delivered breakfast. Bacon, eggs, toast. The best meal I'd had in days. Dr. Pierce entered as I finished eating. "Good news," he said, glancing at my chart. "Your scans look fine. You're clear to go home." He handed me a prescription for pain medication along with the discharge packet. "Paperwork should be ready in about an hour. Give your parents a call. They'll want to be here when you leave." "Thanks, Doc," I said, relieved. I dialed my parents, and just over an hour later they arrived. Mom rushed to my bedside, wrapping me in a tight hug. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry," she murmured. "How are you holding up?" "I've been better," I admitted. Her expression softened. "I made lasagna and kept it warm for you." That got my attention. Mom's lasagna was legendary. A small smile broke through the exhaustion. "Thanks, Mom. That helps." She squeezed my hand. "Your father told me everything. Honestly, if I ever get my hands on that woman." Dad and I exchanged an amused glance. If Mom had been there, she probably would have followed through. "Any updates?" Dad asked. I filled them in on the videos and Henderson's threats. Mom looked horrified. "Videos? You don't want to see them," I said firmly. Dad let out a slow breath. "You'll need a divorce lawyer." "Yeah," I muttered. "And I have to tell Jim. He's going to be crushed." "I'll make some calls," Dad said. A nurse entered with my discharge paperwork. As per hospital policy, I had to be wheeled out, so I reluctantly sat in the chair while Mom and Dad walked beside me. Once we reached the car, Dad helped me into the back seat. We stopped at a pharmacy to pick up my prescription before heading home. As we pulled into the driveway, I noticed my car parked in its usual spot. "Your mother and I picked it up from Ryder on Saturday," Dad explained. "Katie's car is still in the garage." Stepping inside, the smell of lasagna greeted me, a small comfort in the emptiness of my house. "I hope you don't mind," Mom said. "I cleaned up a little. It was getting stuffy in here." "I don't mind at all," I assured her. "Thank you." Before I could say more, a dark sedan pulled up outside. My stomach tensed as Ryan stepped out, followed by another man in a suit. I opened the door. "Detective Blackstone," I greeted. "Come in." Ryan shook my hand. "Tom, this is Detective Hawthorne with NYPD Homicide." "Homicide?" My pulse quickened as Hawthorne handed me a photograph. "Can you identify this woman?" I looked down and felt the air leave my lungs. It was Katie, her face pale, lifeless. A lump formed in my throat. "That looks like my wife, but she was alive Sunday morning. I have a video." Hawthorne's expression remained neutral. "Did she have any distinguishing marks? A tattoo, maybe?" "Yes," I said automatically. "A small dolphin tattoo on her right thigh. She got it on a dare years ago." Hawthorne and Ryan exchanged a look. "I'm sorry, Mr. West," Hawthorne said grimly. "It appears your wife may have been liquidated." The words hit like a sledgehammer. "Liquidated? How?" "We're still investigating," Hawthorne replied, "but preliminary findings suggest she suffered a massive heart attack." "That wouldn't necessarily mean foul play, would it?" I asked, my mind racing. Hawthorne let out a slow breath. "Her body was found buried in a shallow grave in Central Park yesterday." He met my gaze. "That, in my experience, is rarely natural causes." I clenched my jaw. "Have you run toxicology?" "It's in progress," he said. "We'll know more soon." Taking a steady breath, I recounted everything. Ryan took notes, though he was already familiar with most of the details. When I finished, I pulled out my phone, playing back the recorded audio. Then I made them watch the video. The moment it ended, my mother gasped, tears spilling down her face. Without a word, Dad wrapped an arm around her and gently led her out of the room, giving me space to continue my conversation with the detectives. Once I finished explaining what Brenda had told me, Hawthorne flipped through his notes, exchanging a glance with Ryan. "So, Brenda Harris, she's the assistant you mentioned?" "Yeah, that's her," I confirmed. "Is she working today?" "As far as I know." Hawthorne nodded. "We need to talk to her." He glanced at Ryan, who gave a small nod. Then he turned back to me. "What do you know about the Super Molly Henderson mentioned?" "Not much," I admitted. "Brenda said it keeps women docile and compliant. Whatever they used on me must have already cleared my system by the time the hospital ran tests." "And Henderson?" Ryan folded his arms. "That's what we were hoping you could help us with. His private jet left New York last night, supposedly heading back here, but there's no record of it landing." My brows knitted together. He could be anywhere. Ryder Industries has offices all over the country. Hawthorne sighed. "We'll have to get the FAA and FBI involved." Ryan nodded. "I have a contact at the FAA. We'll check in with them after we execute the search warrant at Ryder." Hawthorne's expression darkened. "This could escalate into a federal case. Henderson took your wife across state lines. Abducting charges might apply." Ryan added, "And if the autopsy proves foul play, we're looking at homicide." Hawthorne straightened. "The coroner is still finalizing the report on your wife. Once they're done, they'll release her remains. In the meantime, we're tracking down every person seen in that video." I nodded, though my mind was still struggling to process everything. Ryan turned to Hawthorne. "I'd like a private word with Mr. West." Hawthorne nodded. "I've got calls to make anyway." He faced me. "I'm truly sorry for your loss." "Thank you, Detective," I said, shaking his hand. Once he left, Ryan's tone grew more serious. "Tom, I wanted to talk to you about Katie." Bracing myself, I exhaled. "Go ahead." "I won't go into the worst of it, but the last 48 hours of her life were a nightmare," Ryan said, his voice measured yet grim. "The medical examiner confirmed she didn't willingly participate in what happened. She was taken, sedated, and brutalized by men who saw her as nothing more than property." I forced myself to stay calm, but a deep, burning rage simmered beneath the surface. "Ryan, I appreciate what you're telling me, but Katie was meeting with Henderson in secret for weeks. She had plenty of chances to walk away. She didn't—" Ryan studied me for a long moment before nodding. "I hear you." He reached into his pocket and handed me a business card. "Dr. Harmon, one of the best trauma therapists in the area. Consider giving her a call." I glanced at the card for a moment before slipping it into my pocket. "I'll think about it. Thanks." Ryan's expression darkened slightly as he studied me. "I'm also worried about your safety. Henderson's people may come after you." I met his gaze, unwavering. "I can take care of myself." He exhaled, frustration flickering across his face. "We're stretched thin, or I'd assign officers to watch your house. I'll have dispatch increase patrols in your area." Reluctantly, I nodded. "I'd appreciate that." Ryan's tone turned firm. "Do you own a firearm?" "No," I admitted. "Then keep your doors and windows locked. If anything seems suspicious, don't hesitate. Call emergency." "I will," I assured him. At that moment, Hawthorne re-entered the room. "We've secured the search warrants. We're heading to Ryder now." Ryan stood, shaking my hand. "We'll be in touch soon." Hawthorne followed. "Again, I'm sorry for what you're going through." "Thanks, Detective." As soon as they left, my parents returned. Dad studied my face carefully. "Are you holding up okay, son?" I exhaled. "I'll manage. I need to make some calls." Mom squeezed my hand gently. "Take your time. We're here for you." I nodded, waiting until they stepped out before pulling out my phone. I called Jim first, straight to voicemail. I left a message, knowing he might not get back to me right away. Then I prepared for the hardest call of the day. Katie's father, Bill Anderson, was a retired Marine colonel, a decorated war hero, respected and feared by those who served under him. The full extent of his military service was classified, but I'd heard rumors. One story claimed he once eliminated a squad of enemy combatants with nothing but a combat knife. Tough as they came, but when it came to Katie, he had a soft spot. After retiring, he and his wife Alice had settled in the countryside, enjoying the peace of civilian life. He had always treated me like a son. Now, I had to tell him his daughter was gone. Taking a deep breath, I dialed. A familiar deep voice answered the call. "Anderson residence." "Dad, it's Tom," I said. "Tom?" His tone shifted, suddenly alert. "You all right, son? You sound like someone ran over your dog." I swallowed hard. "No, Dad, it's worse. I just got out of the hospital." And I found out Katie is dead. Silence. Then his voice sharpened. Dead? What the hell do you mean? And why were you in the hospital? It's complicated, I admitted. Damn right it better be. He shot back, his tone hard. Explain. I kept my response brief, knowing he'd have 1,000 more questions. As I spoke, I could almost hear his mind working, analyzing every detail. After a pause, he finally responded. We'll be there at 16 o'clock. A small, bitter smile crossed my lips. That's 4 o'clock for us civilians, right? Damn right. And make sure there's fresh coffee. I'll have it ready. We ended the call, and I leaned back, the weight of everything pressing down on me. For the first time since this nightmare started, I couldn't hold it in. I broke down. I had lost everything. My marriage had been unraveling for a long time. I just hadn't seen it. And now, the only woman I had ever truly loved was gone. As much as I resented what she had done, I never wanted this. Henderson, though, that was another story entirely. I forced myself up and ate a portion of Mom's lasagna. Food had always been a small comfort, and right now, I needed any bit of normalcy I could get. After cleaning up, I wandered through the house. Every room held memories of my life with Katie. I knew right then I couldn't stay here. Once this was over, I'd sell the place and start fresh. As I passed the bedroom, something caught my eye. Katie's phone was still plugged into the charger. I hesitated, then picked it up. If there was any explanation, anything that could tell me why she made the choices she did, it would be here. The screen was locked, but I knew her 4-digit code. I entered it. The screen lit up. Her call log appeared. My heart sank. Multiple calls from Henderson and Brenda's work number. The most recent one? Friday morning. I scrolled through Katie's messages, hoping to find something that might explain her connection to Henderson. There were a few texts between them from months ago, but they were vague, nothing definitive. For all I knew, they could have been talking about the weather. Her emails? Clean. No incriminating exchanges, no hidden messages. Frustrated, I turned off the phone and placed it back on the nightstand. A glance at the clock told me it was 3:45 p.m. Time had slipped away from me. Knowing the Colonel, he'd arrive exactly on schedule. I hurried to the kitchen and brewed a fresh pot of coffee. Strong, just the way he liked it. Right at 4 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Bill and Alice standing there. Bill's sharp eyes immediately locked onto my bruised face. Hell, son, he muttered. No one ever teach you how to duck. I smirked, wincing slightly. My dad tried, never quite mastered it. Bill grunted. Figures. I stepped aside, gesturing for them to come in. As they entered, another car pulled into the driveway. A tall, wiry man stepped out, a laptop bag slung over one shoulder, and 2 additional bags in his hands. Bill turned to me. Hope you don't mind, but after what you told me, I figured we could use some extra hands. The man strode inside, setting his bags down near the couch. Tom, meet Ron Wiseman, Bill introduced. We served together back in the day. I extended a hand. Nice to meet you, Mr. Wiseman. Just Ron, he said, shaking my hand firmly. I shot Bill a questioning look. Ron and his wife have experience dealing with men like Henderson, the Colonel explained. And he's got a particular set of skills that might come in handy. I crossed my arms. What kind of skills? Ron smirked. By trade, I'm an accountant. I blinked. An accountant? He chuckled, unzipping one of his bags. Not just any accountant, he clarified. I do some contract work for a federal task force. Let's just say I have access to information that might prove useful. I nodded slowly. Got it. Well, make yourself comfortable. I'll get the coffee. Alice followed me into the kitchen, and we returned with steaming mugs for everyone. Bill took a careful sip before nodding approvingly. Not bad, Tom, he admitted. Appreciate it. I settled into a chair. All right, let me catch you all up. I laid everything out. Katie, Henderson, the videos, the threats, and the latest update from the detectives. You have recordings? Bill asked. Yeah, I confirmed, but they're not easy to watch. His jaw tightened. I still need to see them. Alice placed a gentle hand on his arm. Bill, are you sure? He met her gaze. Alice, we've seen worse. With a sigh, I unlocked my phone and played the videos. Bill and Alice remained silent as they watched, their faces darkening with each passing second. Ron, however, paused several times, closely analyzing the individuals involved. She was definitely sedated, Alice murmured, shaking her head. Bill and Ron exchanged a knowing glance. But with what? She wondered aloud. I exhaled. Brenda, Henderson's assistant called it something like Super Molly. Ron looked up. And Henderson sedated you too? I nodded. Yeah, but by the time I got to the hospital, whatever it was had already left my system. Ron flipped open his laptop, powering it on. I handed him my Wi-Fi password, and within moments, he was connected and typing away. The guys who kick you, Ron said, his eyes on the screen. Are they in any of these videos? Yeah, I said, pulling up one of the recordings. I paused at a specific frame, zooming in on two men. Ron studied the image. All right, he muttered. Let's see what we can uncover. Harvey Strauss and Lenny Jameson, I said, pointing at them. That's them. Ron didn't look up. Send me the footage. I quickly forwarded the files to the email he provided. A minute later, Ron glanced at me. You know those aren't their real names, right? My stomach tightened. What do you mean? They're ex-mobsters, he explained. Disappeared off the grid years ago, right after their old boss, James Brolin, or Jimmy the Weasel, was found dead in his bed. The feds have been after them ever since. I frowned. And they've been working for Henderson? For about 2 years, I said. Why? Ron's expression darkened. That's when they vanished from law enforcement radar. I let out a slow breath. You're saying they've been hiding under new identities while working for him? Exactly. Ron clicked through several files. Let's see what else we can dig up. As Ron's software ran, Bill leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Here's the plan, he said. Ron's staying here with you until this is dealt with. No way in hell I'm leaving you unprotected. Ron nodded. Understood, Colonel. I turned to Bill. And what are you going to do? Bill's expression hardened. It's better if you don't ask, son. Just know that we Marines take care of our own. His voice was as cold as steel. One way or another, Henderson and his men will pay. I didn't argue. You're on sick leave until Monday, right? Bill asked. Yeah, I said, but I can't go back to Ryder after this. I'll be handing in my resignation first thing. I also need to sell this house and find something smaller. Bill nodded. Makes sense? He hesitated. Any word on when they'll release Katie's body? Hawthorne said it'll take a few days. Bill exhaled. If you need help making arrangements, just say the word. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. Bill stood, signaling the conversation was over. Alice and Ron followed his lead. We should get going, Bill said. Ron, keep me updated. Will do, Ron assured him. Bill turned back to me, and to my surprise, pulled me into a firm hug. In all the years I'd known him, I'd never seen him offer that kind of gesture to another man. Things will work out, son, he said quietly. Alice stepped forward next, wrapping her arms around me. I'm so sorry, Tom, she whispered. But don't worry, we'll help you through this. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Thank you, Mom, that means a lot. She smiled softly. Call us if you need anything. Not long after Bill and Alice left, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Jim. I took a deep breath and answered, settling into a chair, bracing myself for the inevitable conversation. Dad? His voice was tense, edged with worry. What the hell is going on? What happened to Mom? I exhaled slowly, steadying my thoughts. It's complicated, son. This doesn't sound like something she would do, he pressed. I know, I admitted. None of this makes sense to me either. Have you found anything that explains it? I hesitated before answering. No, I went through her phone, checked her emails, nothing out of the ordinary. Jim was silent for a moment before suggesting, could she have had a second phone? A second phone? Yeah, a burner. One of those cheap prepaid phones, he explained. Maybe she had one you haven't found yet. A thought hit me like a freight train. The disturbing videos I received, they came from an unrecognized number. That actually makes a lot of sense, I muttered. If she had one, you need to find it, Jim urged. I will, I promised. I'll let you know if I find anything. We talked for a little while longer before he asked me to keep him updated on when his mother's body would be ready for burial. After hanging up, I turned to Ron. Jim brought up something I hadn't thought of. Katie might have been using a burner phone. Ron's eyes sharpened with interest. Do you have a number? I nodded and recited it to him. Without missing a beat, he launched a program on his laptop and began typing. After a few minutes, he had an answer. This number is tied to a prepaid phone registered in the city, he said. As you suspected, it's a burner. Any way to track it? Ron's fingers moved over the keyboard. The last signal pinged Tuesday morning in New York. No activity since you received that last video. So it's probably gone. Most likely, he agreed. I sighed and stood up, heading upstairs to prepare a guest room for Ron. I wasn't sure how long he'd be staying, but given the situation, I had a feeling it wouldn't be a short visit. By the time the weekend rolled around, Ron was still here, spending most of his time glued to his laptop. I didn't ask too many questions. He clearly knew what he was doing. Over the past few days, we had gotten to know each other better. He told me about his past as a Marine sniper and his current role within a federal private task force. Although he had an official title as a CPA, his real job revolved around corporate investigations, unearthing fraud, money laundering, and illegal activities within major corporations. He and his wife, Amy, had spent years exposing some of the most corrupt business executives in the country. The night before, he had asked if I was okay with Amy joining him for the weekend. I told him I didn't mind. She arrived at exactly 9 a.m. Saturday morning. After introductions, they took her bags to the guest room while I gave them a little space, stepping into the garage to tinker with my tools. An hour later, I walked back inside. Ron and Amy were both seated at his laptop, their expressions tense as they stared at something on the screen. Ron glanced up as I entered. "News?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "First off, the FBI has officially taken over the investigation." I nodded. "Figures." "Second," he continued, "I just got a confirmed location on our targets." My heart pounded. "All three of them?" "Yeah," Ron confirmed. "They're holed up near Colorado Springs. I already contacted the colonel. He's handling it." Relief washed over me. Finally, some good news. But Ron hesitated. "There's more," he said, his voice unusually grim. My stomach twisted. "What is it?" He met my gaze. "I pulled up your wife's official autopsy report. I felt the blood drain from my face. And?" Ron clenched his jaw. "The report confirms she suffered a massive heart attack, triggered by the chemicals Henderson gave her." I braced myself. "But that's not what eliminated her, is it?" Ron shook his head. "They found dirt in her lungs." A chill ran down my spine. "Meaning?" Ron exhaled. "She was still breathing when they buried her." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, barely alive, but alive nonetheless. Ron's voice was measured but heavy. "That's not all, Tom." I swallowed hard. "There's more?" Ron hesitated. "The toxicology report showed high concentrations of pills in her system, molly, white powder, and other chemicals. There were bruises all over her body. The last hours of her life were horrific. I can't believe she willingly participated in any of it." I felt my fists clenching involuntarily. "What do you think happened?" Ron rubbed his temples. "From what I've pieced together, Henderson and his men had a party. They pumped her full of pills, pushing her past her limits. Eventually, her body shut down. Instead of calling for help, they must have assumed she was dead and got rid of her the fastest way they knew how. So they buried her alive," I whispered. Ron nodded. "Yeah." I sat down, my whole body trembling. Amy placed a comforting hand on my shoulder as silent tears streamed down my face. Ron's voice hardened. "Henderson and his crew are wanted for homicide, conspiracy, pill distribution, and a dozen other charges. The men in your videos have already been arrested, but Henderson is the main target." "What's going to happen to him?" I asked. Ron shrugged. "Depends. With the right lawyers, people like him slip through the cracks." I was jolted awake by my phone ringing. Groggily, I checked the time. 4:30 a.m. "Who the hell calls at this hour?" I answered. A distorted voice came through. "Check your messages." The line went dead. A chill ran down my spine as I opened my texts. A new message had arrived with a video attachment. I tapped play. The footage was grainy, shot at night. 3 men, without clothes, their hands and feet bound, were dumped onto the pavement in front of a brick building. Even in the poor lighting, I recognized them instantly. Henderson, Lenny. A sign was strung around Henderson's neck. Memo to the FBI. I eliminated Katie West. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. Someone had just served their own brand of justice. Shutting off my phone, I lay back down and closed my eyes. I didn't lose a second of sleep. At around 9 a.m., I headed downstairs. Amy was already in the kitchen frying bacon and eggs. She smiled as I entered. "Hope you don't mind me hijacking your stove. Ron gets unbearable if he skips breakfast." I chuckled. I totally get it. Help yourself." As we sat down to eat, a knock sounded at the door. I opened it to find Ryan standing there. "Morning," he said. "Mind if I come in?" "Of course." I stepped aside, introducing him to Ron and Amy. Ryan declined coffee, his expression serious. "I just came to let you know, Henderson and his 2 men were taken into custody early this morning in Colorado Springs." I leaned back. Good. That's what we wanted, right? Ryan nodded. Yeah, they're already giving statements, but there's just one thing. He studied me closely. The way they were found, it was too convenient. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? I met his gaze evenly. No idea. I've been here all night. Ron and Amy can confirm that. Ryan smirked. Uh-huh. He shook his head. Just wanted to keep you updated. Stay safe, Tom. I watched him go, then shut the door behind him. As soon as Ryan left, I turned to Ron. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? I asked, crossing my arms. Ron smirked. Let's just say, it's best you don't ask questions. I let out a long sigh, shaking my head. You should probably check in with your father-in-law, he suggested. Nodding, I picked up my phone and dialed Bill's number. Anderson, he answered, his voice as sharp as ever. Hey, Dad, just wanted to let you know, Henderson and his men were picked up in Colorado Springs. The cops stopped by to confirm. Good, Bill replied, his tone neutral. Ron thought I should call and thank you, I added, choosing my words carefully. There was a brief silence. That so? Yeah, I said. So, thanks. You're welcome, son, Bill said. Then after a pause, he asked, I assume you got a call last night? That's right, I confirmed. The sign was a nice touch. Think the feds got the message? Bill chuckled. I damn well hope so. We'll talk soon, son. Take care. I will. Thanks, Dad. When Monday rolled around, I walked into the office for the last time. I handed in my resignation without hesitation. My colleagues were polite, offered their condolences, and told me they understood my decision. I appreciated the sentiments, but the truth was, I just wanted out. I needed to close this chapter and start fresh. After leaving Ryder Industries, I met with a realtor to put my house on the market. 20 years of memories were tied to that place, but I knew staying there would only keep me stuck in the past. It was time to move forward. A week passed before the New York medical examiner released Katie's body. As promised, her parents took charge of the funeral arrangements. Attending the service was harder than I expected. For over 2 decades, she had been the love of my life. Losing her felt like losing a part of myself. But at the same time, I couldn't forget what she had done, the betrayal, the deception. In the end, I convinced myself that the real Katie had been lost long before that final weekend. The pills, the manipulation, Henderson had stolen her from me long before her body gave out. Jim managed to take a few days off from West Point to be there. Seeing him again was bittersweet. We mourned together, sharing memories of Katie before everything went wrong. I chose not to tell him the full truth. Jim had always been close to his mother. There was no reason to taint the good memories he had of her. After the funeral, I met with an attorney to discuss legal action against Ryder Industries. I wasn't sure if anything would come of it, but my lawyer seemed optimistic. With multiple criminal charges pending against Henderson and his board, there was a strong case against them. Meanwhile, the criminal trial stretched on for months. The prosecution sought the harshest possible sentence for Henderson, while his defense team tried every trick in the book to delay the inevitable. Justice was coming, and I would be there to witness it. I took the stand, recounting my experience in excruciating detail. I listened as others testified, their stories painting an even darker portrait of Henderson's crimes. Brenda also took the stand. She revealed that Katie hadn't been the only woman Henderson had targeted. There were many others. When asked directly if Katie had willingly been involved with Henderson before that fateful weekend, Brenda admitted she couldn't say for sure. However, newly recovered footage from Henderson's office showed Katie initially rejecting his advances. Over time, though, she had seemed to accept his twisted game, allowing herself to be manipulated into betraying me. As the trial progressed, more evidence surfaced. A search of Henderson's office and personal residence uncovered stockpiles of experimental pills, most of which had been created to control and subdue women. Experts testified that many of these substances resembled date defilement pills, but had unpredictable effects. But the most gut-wrenching moment came when I finally learned the full details of Katie's last moments. Henderson and his men had kept her sedated for nearly the entire weekend, forcing her through unimaginable horrors. At some point, in the middle of their sick games, her body gave out. She collapsed, clutching her chest in agony. The pain was unbearable, and within seconds, she lost consciousness. Instead of calling for medical help, even with a hospital just minutes away, they checked her pulse, claimed they couldn't find one, and decided she was dead. Rather than reporting her pass away, they cleaned her up, loaded her into the trunk of a car, and buried her in Central Park. When asked under oath, none of them could claim any medical expertise. None of them had any training in CPR. None of them were qualified to declare a person dead. And their mistake sealed their fate. The prosecution's final blow came when the medical examiner testified. His conclusion was undeniable. Traces of soil were found in Katie's lungs. She had been buried alive. Gasps filled the courtroom. Some jury members turned pale. I had known the truth for days, but hearing it in an official statement made it all too real. In the end, the jury found Jake Henderson, Lenny Jameson, Harvey Strauss, and every single person involved guilty on all counts. The judge denied the execution sentence, but sentenced the three main perpetrators to life without parole. The rest received long sentences, ensuring they wouldn't see freedom for decades. With the criminal trial behind me, the civil lawsuits moved swiftly. Rider industries collapsed under the weight of the scandal. Customers abandoned them, investors pulled out, and the company was placed into receivership. Henderson, once untouchable, was left bankrupt. Before he officially filed for bankruptcy, he was forced to pay me a hefty settlement. The irony was almost poetic. His scheme to humiliate me had backfired in the worst way possible. Katie was gone. Henderson and his men were locked away. His empire had crumbled. And as for me, life went on. I sold the house and moved into a modest two-bedroom apartment. The day I handed over the keys, I felt a pang of sadness, but deep down, I knew I had made the right choice. My therapist suggested I take time to rediscover myself, maybe travel, meet new people, step away from the darkness that had consumed my life for months. So, I decided to do just that. I booked a ticket for a round-the-world cruise. With nothing but a packed bag and a passport, I caught a taxi to the airport. From there, I flew to Miami, where my ship awaited. As I stepped onto the deck, feeling the salty breeze on my face, I took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I wasn't haunted by the past. The future was wide open, and I was finally ready to embrace it.